You are listening to Confessions of a Counselor podcast with Janice, mental health in bite-sized chunks. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Confessions of a Counselor. I'm your host, Janice, and in today's episode, I thought we would talk about a client who wasn't the right fit. So this client's name is Robert, and he was heavily in his addiction and heavily in the mindset that there wasn't anything wrong. And so I'm going to describe in this episode how that wasn't the right fit for what I offer as a psychotherapist. So let's jump right in. So in this episode, I want to describe why working with this client wasn't a good fit and how sometimes the therapeutic relationship isn't a best fit, or that we need to find a therapist or perhaps a different program in order to support us in the moment that we're in. So this doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with the client. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with the therapy. It just means that it doesn't work together. Just like regular relationships, right? Relationships in everyday life. Sometimes the therapeutic process doesn't work, and this was one of them. So Robert came in to do a consultation with me, and the way that he was describing his behaviors and his thoughts and his addictions, I had some questions for him. And so Robert was describing his addiction to alcohol, and he wasn't seeing it as a problem. So he was drinking heavily most days of the week. He was in tumultuous relationships, and he didn't want to hear any questions, and he didn't want to get curious about his behavior. And so these were the red flags for me, right? So someone can come into therapy heavily in their addiction, but if they're willing to participate in the psychotherapy, right? So the questions and the pushback and working through resistance, then that's fine, right? We can work with addiction and move through this. But the sticky part of this relationship that for me led to saying, hey, Robert, I don't think this is a good fit, is the unwillingness to question or the unwillingness to see from a different perspective. And this is where it got hard to work with Robert. So he had a consultation, and I think he came in for maybe 1 or 2 sessions. And at that point, I knew that my style of psychotherapy, which is fairly laid back and pushing when needs to, wasn't going to help Robert gain awareness to the addiction and the tumultuous relationships in his life. So this is where, it's okay to go to a therapist and see if something's going to work, and then find other alternatives if that therapist isn't the right fit. And so I had referred Robert out to some other programs in the community in order to find the right fit for him, because I wasn't sure that individual psychotherapy was where he was at. He needed more support than that. And that's okay, right? So this is an example of how sometimes psychotherapy isn't the right fit in that moment, or the psychotherapist isn't the right fit for you in that moment. And it's okay to look around. It's okay to find the right fit. And we've talked about that before. So this is an example where it wasn't the right fit for me, right? And that doesn't mean it's not the right fit for every therapist out there, but it wasn't the right fit for me. And I don't think it was the right fit for Robert. So I hope that enlightened you, that gave you some context as to when sometimes a client might not be the right fit. So until next time, take care. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Confessions of a Counselor podcast is available anywhere you like to listen to your podcast, both on Apple and Android. New episodes will be released every Friday. If you enjoyed this podcast, please feel free to join the conversation. Leave a review or subscribe to the podcast hosted on the Anchor app. All these details can be found at janicelyons.com. Until next time, take care.